All right. The boys are back, ladies and gentlemen, and it is time for another episode of CTT. That's Chubby Tackle Talks. The Chubby boys are here, and here's what we're going to tackle this week. G-Man in the coffee cup and the Dadster shirt. What's happening, brother? Tell me what's going on this week.
Tell you what, I tried the last dab hot sauce. Didn't initially get me. It got me today. It double dabbed me. I've been on double dabbed on the pot this morning. So
did your butthole look like the Japanese flag at that point?
The day after.
Ooh. Yeah, absolutely. It sure did. Yeah, it dabbed me. It won.
Ooh, son, coming out the wrong way. What about you, JT? How you doing this morning, my friend?
Bubba, you're coming in like Michael Scott at that big award ceremony when he just got a little too loud for that audience bright and early in the morning. But it's great to be here. Thanks for waking us up with your call to the new podcast.
Hey, man.
He came in with the Dundies.
I am excited to be here. I am happy. I am ecstatic. My tits are jacked, and I am ready to go, boys. So let's lead straight into the quick hits of the week. First of all, this week came out, Sean Payton, head coach of the Denver Broncos, had surgery on his cataracts, saying last year he could not properly read the plays off of his play sheet. Sean, wait till you see what your quarterback room looks like, buddy.
Oh, look at the excuses. Oh, my goodness.
Last night, the Kansas City Chiefs held their ceremony giving out their Super Bowl rings. So for those of you counting, Harrison Buckner has a ring, Taylor Swift has not.
Ooh. All right, here comes more hate than you got from Michigan on this one. My goodness.
And finally, the New England Patriots have announced that they are retiring the number 12, also in commemoration of the number of decades before their next Super Bowl.
Yeah. I believe it. I'm buying.
All right.
So Brady gets it. Hey, and I got to tell you on that last one though, to me, I think this is the most interesting. The AFC East, and here's going to be the fact of the week right here. The AFC East now with the Patriots retiring Brady's number 12. The AFC East, every team in the AFC East has now retired the number 12.
Really?
So every single team, it's the first conference for everyone to retire the same. So let's do a little trivia, guys. So number 12 for the Patriots was obviously Brady.
Yeah.
Who else do you think has had their number retired? So for the Jets, number 12.
Joe Namath.
Joe Namath is correct. For the Dolphins, number 12.
Was Marino was 8. He wasn't 12, was he?
It was not Marino. That's correct.
Oh gosh. Can you name another Dolphin other than Marino from the past?
I mean, Larry Zonka, but he was not number 12 either.
Struggling.
Bob Greasy.
I never got that. I would have never.
Bob Greasy, number 12.
You could have given me 48 hours. Wouldn't have come.
And then a little bit more recent, but of course not as recent as Brady. The Buffalo Bills, number 12.
Kelly.
Jim Kelly,
Kelly.
Super Bowl losing quarterback, Jim Kelly, number 12.
There you go. Hey,
4 or 5 times over.
Hey, not bad. Listen, I agree with you. Look, Bob Greasy was a heck of a player back in the day, but I agree that was a little bit tougher of one. But still very interesting that all those teams have now retired the number 12.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite a cool fact.
If you're a quarterback, that sounds like the number to get. I'm just saying. You know,
I think it's
high probability.
I think, I do think that's going to be interesting. In the future episode, we're going to have to go down that rabbit hole of most retired numbers in teams. I know the Bears and the Steelers have both retired tons of numbers.
But if you're a Jaguar, your number's 55 because that's what they pay an average quarterback. 55 mil. I'm sorry. All right.
I thought you were going with that's the level of athleticism that they're going to get at the quarterback position. They get an offensive lineman number.
That's their max rating on Madden. It's 55.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Hey man, look, good for T-Law. T-Law has kind of that, and we've talked about it a little bit. We always want to compare people to infamous Chicago Bears quarterback Smoking Jay Cutler, who is like the definition of just like average quarterback in the league. It's the guy that he's like 15th overall, and you're worried about trading him out to find somebody better because you can very easily find someone worse. That's kind of Trevor Lawrence right now,
Yeah, but $275 million over 5 years, like, come on, man, this is bad for football. But this is for another day, another debate. But what T-Law and his agent just did great for Trevor Lawrence. It's going to have horrible ripple effects for the NFL and salary caps, because if you're paying $55 million for Trevor Lawrence, what do you have to pay for a top 10 quarterback?
Well, and Mahomes has a great contract. He's not. I don't know that he's really up there that high, even with what Lawrence is making. But I think, and we didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole today.
I know.
But let's throw this out there. Tom Brady was never the highest paid person on the Patriots
for a reason.
And for a reason, because he understood how you have to build the team around him. And I think Patrick Mahomes has taken that same philosophy over to the Chiefs. But good for T-Law, good for Lawrence, because he has realized he's never going to win a Super Bowl there, so he might as well make the money. And I think that's the trade-off. You can either make the money or win the Super Bowl. But that takes us away from that into our topic of the day, and it was just this really interesting. I shared it to you guys on the group chat news article that I saw earlier this week that Atlanta Falcons backup quarterback Michael Pennix was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama this past weekend, recruiting players for former head coach Kellen DeBoer. So Michael Penix, who to my knowledge had never been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama prior to last weekend, a graduate of the University of Washington, is recruiting players for the University of Alabama right now. And I just thought that was kind of going back to kind of the NIL discussions, the discussions that we've been having in previous weeks. It goes back to player loyalty and where your loyalties lie. Do they lie with the school that gave you the scholarship? Do they lie with the coaches that brought you along? Or do they lie with the boosters who are paying you millions of dollars to be there? I don't know. Grimo, you back in the day were a well-known college athlete, an award-nominated college athlete, as we found out last week, who can vote on the College Hall of Fame.
Voter. Yeah,
Hall of Fame voting.
Please build me up some more. Yeah.
So,
where you at, Michigan fans?
Obviously, you've fallen off a great deal since those days.
I mean, he's still on the tackle talk. Come on.
But
got a podcast.
You've gone from tackling people. You are the number one semi-professional podcaster that I know personally. Let's just. But going from there, I think that leads into the question: is what loyalties do you still feel like you have to who and why? And why do you think that we're seeing Michael Pennix? Why do you think that we're seeing players recruiting for their coaches or have loyalty to their coaches versus their schools and the fan base that really cheered for them?
Well, easy. I think this day and age, there's zero loyalty, except for me, right? So there's probably some level of incentive somewhere that made him do that, right? So that's what I'm going with. I think if you look back 20 years ago, there's loyalty to a team, there's loyalty to a coach. But these days, there is no loyalty. The transfer portal, it's all about the bag, getting the bag. Now, I understand a quarterback bonds with a coach. That's a strong bond, and that's the connection. And the connection's with the coach. So I can easily see why he went there and connected. Well, even with no school ties to the University of Alabama, he likes the coach. And that's where the relationship is. The relationship's not with the university. And these days, unless for a handful of schools, and even for those schools, it's about the name on the back of the jersey than what's on the front. And it's the bottom line.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I very clearly remember the controversy when Alabama first put the names on the back of the jersey. How much do you think, and Jansen, you can jump in here too, like how much do you think though that is back in the histories, back in the days, 20, 40, 50, 60 years ago, the schools were the ones really putting themselves out there for the players versus now the players see the schools taking from them and the coaches giving to them? How much do you think that might be? Jansen, why don't you start off with that?
But look, Alabama's been far ahead of its time for decades. I mean, most of its fan base had never been to Tuscaloosa, but they still supported the coach there. but I digress. Gee, you're right. I mean, what we're seeing is the next evolution of what this thing really is, which is no longer amateur football. It is minor league football. It is, much like we do with NFL, and much like we're going to do at a later segment about talking about our NFL teams and players that we follow. College no longer becomes about your bond with that school that happens to have sports. There were some sayings out there where, a lot of teams are saying, well, we're every sports school. We're at every sports school. We like everything. We want gymnastics. We want basketball. We want baseball. This is really just about football and a couple football players. And this is really just about them elevating their brand. But with the NIL, I don't know that I blame them. Like, I think if I'm a kid, and I'm still saying kid, because I mean, they're all in their teenage years and 20 years old and younger. I mean, this is how I set myself up for a career. You know, we may all start off, we may be doing internships, we may go out, and we all have a different way that we start our career. For them, this is just a career move to the NFL. And the school was just the mechanism. We don't care who our first employer was. We don't care who gave us that jump off spot, but that's not what college football was built on. It's just what it's evolved into.
Yep.
And I think it's a sad state for the sport. I think it's why so many of us that grew up watching nothing but college are moving more and more to the pros, because if I'm going to watch something that's a professional level, I at least might as well watch the best, and that's the NFL. Yep. And I think that whole dynamic really changes the game. But this is unprecedented. I mean, I don't know. There may be some other instances where a player, but you're fresh out. You know, you came off the draft board as a top 10 pick for Washington. You have no ties to Alabama. You've got nothing that they did for you. And I know Tuscaloosa is just down the road from Atlanta, but it just seems hard to comprehend. And if I'm a Washington fan, or if I'm a college football fan in general, you got to just feel that knife twist a little bit. You didn't even give me a year. You didn't even get your first NFL game, and you've already somewhat abandoned this.
Well, you know, the only thing I will say is that Atlanta is Tuscaloosa East. I mean, University of Alabama has owned Atlanta. If you don't believe me, go ask Kirby Smart and his win streak. That's all you got to say. I mean, Atlanta, it's Alabama's second home stadium, so maybe there is the connection. And
I mean, y'all do share
the Tuscaloosa vibes.
Well, and Jansen, you started to hit on something there that I want to come back to, and I certainly want to continue this discussion about how players are being treated at the college level. But Jansen, you hit on an interesting remark that I want to explore, which is this: Michael Pennix was a god to University of Washington fans. If they were going to build a statue of a player, I think if you were looking in the last 3 months, you think Michael Pennix is probably going to be a favorite. He didn't quite get him that national championship. He took him there. He did amazing things with that offense. He threw him and Rome Odunze were just incredible together. And certainly it was a magical season for the University of Washington. Those fans put their money in the NIL dollars. They spent them on him. They went and bought his jerseys. I bet half the people wearing purple at the national championship game were wearing Penix jerseys or something Penix themed. And so now it comes back to he's in the NFL. He's going to have to wait a couple of years, probably barring injury, before he becomes a starting quarterback. But now you have to look and say, why would I be a fan of him if I'm a Falcons fan? Because he's already shown me how willing he is to abandon his fans at the University of Washington. For someone who's building a brand for themselves, as both of you have said, it's about the ME, not the team. It's about the me. It's about the name on the back of the jersey. For someone who's building a brand for themselves, what do you think it says? That the first thing he does is abandon those who supported him through his college career, and I think he was only there for 2 years. But his college career at Washington, the place that made him a superstar, that made him a top 10 pick, and he's just turned his back on them already and said, "Hey guys, that's great, but I'm jumping on the bandwagon with Coach over here, and I'm going to start screaming Roll Tide." He's not recruiting for the University of Washington. He's not helping out to get players there to continue the traditions of the people that gave him the support that he wanted and needed. Instead, he's recruiting for someone else. And again, I think Alabama doesn't need more fans. I mean, I think Alabama just got a $200 million donation from a guy who never went to school there this past couple weeks. It's insane to me that he would just be so short-sighted, no matter the loyalties to his coach, that he's just walking away from these fans and these people that have given so much to support him.
But it triggers a dynamic that started last year with Deion, that we really didn't think anyone other than Deion had this dynamic of that. It's really about the coach. I mean, you saw what Deion did with Colorado. He's come back down to earth some this year. He had a lot of off-field issues with his players. But what Penix did and what happened last year was, well, whatever brand, whatever we wear right here on the chest doesn't matter. I'm following Deion or I'm following Kellen. And if I am a school that's hiring a coach and I'm watching this, or if I'm one of the other coaches out there that's X's and O's, what that's triggering is, oh my gosh, I really have to be a player's coach. Because if
Yeah.
I can't get them on my side, if I'm not the one that's pandering, if I'm almost not this agent, the coach is now a more powerful figure than any one institution. And it's not all the way there yet. But again, we saw this with Dion last year. We're seeing this right now. This could be the trend that we come up to where that coach really becomes the most powerful, influential figure in this whole scheme of things, which we saw Saban duck out. I mean, Saban has done it for years and years and years, but he flat out said it. I can't keep doing this with the players in the NIL deals. This is not what I can maintain. This is not where my head. I need to be focusing on the game and the X's and the O's and everything else. And it's a dynamic shifter that's going to put a lot of power in coaches' hands, specifically coaches that know how to recruit.
Well, and that's a great point, and it's going to be interesting to see how the NCAA evolves as well in punishing people, because it's always been the coaches that have gotten the programs in trouble for recruiting violations, and then the teams who've paid for it, the colleges who've paid for it.
The
But
NCAA going to do? They're not going to do crap. They've not done
it's all about the
anything
money.
for anything. Like they're just as they're hanging on because they're getting their like dividends, or they're getting, their pay to go away. They're the biggest crook in all of this. Don't get me started on the NCAA, but you made a great point, JT. The big brands of college football are now the big money institutions. They're big business. They always have been big business, but now it's all out there in the open. Everybody knows about it. So I think the things that we love, the amateurism, the tradition, the prestige, all those things that you could build up that go into this college atmosphere, that's the college loyalty that we know. Right now, I think you're right. It is with the coach, because these players see these institutions as an employer, which, quite frankly, based on the way the NCAA ruled a couple of weeks ago, they can be employers. So this whole thing, I think we just got to wrap our heads around. It's a different landscape. It is minor league. Yeah, it's gonna the UFL. I don't know. It probably gonna go away. Spring league's just not. It's not really gonna work out. So this is your farm league.
Yeah.
Always has been. Will continue to be. It's just now people gonna be making lots of money.
Shout out Birmingham Stallions in the UFL championship game once again every season there. But Graham, how much does it come back to the shift in mentality on how these schools are treating players? I mean, obviously players have always received some sort of special treatment, but now it's almost like they're isolating them, like they're in the Olympic Village, because you've now got it to where kids, high school kids, are being told you have to graduate in December. We want you down here in January to start going through the spring program. We're going to have all these workouts today. We're going to feed you your specific nutrition, your specific meals. You're going to have study halls at this time. They're really not interacting that much with the general student population as much as in the past. I know that when you were playing college football, because that's where we met, you were intermingling in with the rest of the school. You ate meals in the same cafeteria. You stayed in the same dorms or off campus in the same apartments. You were going to the same classes. The study halls were not in an isolated location. There were not the facilities and the isolation that you now have. They weren't asking you to graduate in December. I think, quite frankly, if anyone would have asked any high school player back when I graduated, hey, we need you to graduate in December to come to college, they would have been like, what are you talking about? Now schools are planning around that. Schools are taking athletes as they are high schools in sophomore and junior years and planning around them graduating in December so that they can move on to college and go ahead and enroll. And I just think that maybe that has to do with a part of it is we've stopped treating these athletes as kids to develop and started treating them as professionals for the next level, but we're also isolating them and taking them away from that college experience. How much do you think that shift in mentality that these schools have made has affected the mentality of the players to create that ME attitude, as you so referred it to?
Well, I remember a point in time when the NCAA broke up athletic only dorms
Yeah,
and meeting spaces. And
yeah.
again, just as everything that the NCAA has done, there's no regulation. And now we're even back way over the top where the facilities are multi-million extravaganzas that they get a different experience. And to me, quite frankly, Bubba, about the normal college experience, I'm more worried about like that's what they think life is like. I mean, look
Yeah.
at Xavier, what Xavier Worthy?
No, and that's exactly where I was going to go. The Xavier Worthy reaction to going from the Texans locker room to the Chiefs
Yeah,
locker room, and he's like, "What?" It's the same reaction of like going from the Texans locker room to like the high school locker room.
yeah.
It's
Like
insane.
why would you even leave some of these locker rooms, right? Like they've got like air conditioned chase lounges that fold out leather with a TV screen in it, charge everything you want and snacks. I would never leave that facility, period. And that's what they want. They want these kids to just be there the entire time. And now if they can become employees, now they don't really have to ever go to class. But to your original question about the other part that we don't talk about, because we've been kind of giving the players a bad rap here, but the institution and then the way that social media is always going, they're always going for the next 5 star and they're starting earlier and earlier. And with NIL deals, unregulated, I mean, you can coax a ninth grader into some NIL change and to get them on the hook earlier. So there's always that level of competition that's coming in that you feel like you're going to get pushed out. So and there's no contracts in place, at least not now. I mean, there may be NIL deals, but that's marketing and advertising per se and names. But in terms of you being on that team, there's a scholarship, but that's an annual deal. And I mean, there's nothing there, right? There's always somebody else that's going to come in and take your spot. And then this whole like, hey, I'm just going to stay in here and earn my keep and work hard, and that's going to get me to where I need to be. I think a lot of that, some of these coaches and institutions, like, I don't care, man. Like, we've invested in this kid, and I don't care how hard you work. Like,
So
So, gee, that's a good point, man. I don't know. You said we're giving these players a bad rap. As I think through this, it's not them that I pin this on. You
it's
know,
not their fault.
I'm a person that believes culture matters, and it's the culture that we build, and then people adjust and adapt to that culture. We've built a cultural issue here, and if I'm that student, if I'm that player, I'm probably doing the exact same thing they are doing because time and time again, I'm being shown there's really nobody there for me except me. You know, if this business is here, I've got to make sure I'm taken care of. And my loyalties have just shifted because we've shifted the culture. It used to be that institution, that school that took care of you. You know, those coaches prided themselves on how many would graduate. They prided themselves on everything that wrapped around that college experience of making sure you had a chance to do fraternities and do these different activities and that you were a part of the culture of your school. To your point, all that's out the window. And so they're not even coming into the same situation. I don't blame the student. I don't blame the player in this at all. I blame it's that coaching and up for this new system that we've created that I blame.
I'll tell you the one thing that I'm most worried about here is I'm worried about losing my favorite thing in football, which is the overachiever, the guy that works harder than anybody. And, Brady comes to mind about that. Brady had such a long NFL career. We all know where he was drafted, but the nutrition and the workouts and everything he did. J.J. Watt comes to mind. J.J. Watt is an NFL superstar that was not a highly sought out player coming out of Wisconsin necessarily. And then I'll never forget that like watching him on Hard Knocks. The dude had a nap space that he created in the trainer's room. He is a defensive end that would catch 100 balls off the jugs machine at the end of practice, just so he could practice batting down balls and catching them for interceptions. Had no reason to do that. We're missing that next man up mentality now, maybe where you get the chance for the unheralded walk on to make his mark, for him to outwork it. And we talk about Nick Saban and how Nick Saban says he just can't handle the NIL deal. I've had the pleasure of meeting, talking to, working with several ex-Saban players, and they have, even though they didn't make that NFL team or they only had a tryout or something, they have the NFL mentality, which you have to have, which is the next man up. Every one of them I know has a business, a side hustle, two side hustles, something. They're always working. They're working out. They're working on their businesses. They're buying real estate. They're doing whatever. And when you ask them, they all tell you the same thing. It's the Saban mentality. If you don't outperform everyone else, they're going to take your spot. So they have to have that hustle mentality, that push mentality. And it's kind of the same thing in the NFL. I remember there's a great book written back in the early 2000s, maybe even 2000, about the Baltimore Ravens by John Feinstein, called Next Man Up, where he followed them around for the season. That's the NFL mentality. We talked about T-Law getting paid. You know what? There's a quarterback behind him wanting to get paid. And if you don't outwork, outperform, and hustle, there's a guy wanting to take your spot every time. The question is now, are we coddling these individual players? Are we taking these elite athletes and coddling them now and not giving them that drive and mentality that not only made college football great, made the NFL great, but quite frankly, has made America great by the fact that we're always supposed to outwork and out push ourselves to make sure that no one takes from us. I don't know, guys. I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm a little bit worried about how this is reflecting on our greater culture here. I
Well,
don't
let
know,
me
Graham.
let me throw one more curveball at you, right? Beyond NIL deals, beyond all these things, right? The creator economy is a
Yeah.
real deal, and there's
Yeah.
lots of money to be made. And so now you've got these kids that are going to have this like bolster to their platform to put them on a stage that they're only going to have a short snapshot in life to actually build a following, get a following, create a following. And you see some of these players like the low end players that you're not really going to hear about. I mean,
I
some of those had guys had
immediately
like,
thought of what's his name, Isaiah Rochelle or something like that. His wife became TikTok famous, and now he's
yeah,
like he makes more
yeah.
money off TikTok than he does off his NFL career. I think.
And they're picking up quick 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 followers. And that's enough to get them way monetized and keep pushing content. So now it's they wake up, their life isn't here because they're making money, right, on the phone. And they're going to keep pushing content because you have a real takeoff here. You're going to do a YouTube thing here. And that pays. And the more like look at Travis Hunter. I mean,
Yeah.
every YouTube
Yeah.
video he puts out, it's like a million views. I mean, that dude's making every video. He's getting several G's. I mean, just and that's easy chicken because it's doing stuff that they're already doing, but
Yeah.
it creates this whole level of distraction. It's only going to get worse. And I don't know, man. That's the culture that we've created. There's a lot of other things that these kids are worried about than just going up there and playing ball.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that I blame them because
Yeah, you
No.
can't.
you'll carry those followers forever. How you don't really unfollow a ton. And so you've got a decade worth of income coming through this. Your video counts may go down, but you've still established a brand for yourself. And who knows, you could flip that and sell insurance or something at the end of the day. But you, now you got a captivated audience that you and I and everyone on this call would never have otherwise.
Right.
It's crazy. I don't understand it. But I mean, look. We have to sit here and admit, and let's not be hypocrites about it. We are three guys that started talking football because we love it, and now we're just putting it out there because look, all these other guys are putting out there what they love, and we want to share what we love, and so let's keep it pure is all I'm saying. Is let's keep it pure. Let's be honest about it. I know some of my favorite TikTok videos or YouTube videos are just simple little stupid things of people doing their love. I don't know. Have y'all seen the baked potato guy that makes potatoes over in England and sells them to people? That guy, I love that guy. I don't know why, but just a dude making baked potatoes makes me happy.
Well,
So
there's a
that's
lot.
why I'm
There's a
fat.
lot to unpack there, Bubba.
It's unwrapped. It's in tinfoil. Okay, it's in aluminum foil.
All I ever see is dun, 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 dun. The dog. Dun, dun,
No,
Oh
dun,
yeah.
dun.
I have
Y'all don't
no
get that?
idea. No,
Oh
No.
man,
no idea.
everybody in the world else. You don't see the little dogs. It's like the little
I
meme on
I
everything. It's like
I
my brain
think
when somebody introduces themselves is like dun, 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 dun.
I think one day we're gonna have to go down the rabbit hole and what our TikToks look like and our
What our
For You page because
algorithms?
I'm a little scared at this point, you know.
Have you seen that SNL skit where they're like, they're all at the table and the girlfriends are like, "Hey, open up your IG Reels page," and the boys are like, "Oh no," and they get it's this whole thing about how they just are trying not to show their Reels page. Yeah, that's
Uh,
the new internet history.
see how the algorithm's hitting you.
Yeah,
Oh, it's terrible.
that's your new internet history.
That's hilarious.
All right, guys, we're running up against time. So final thoughts on this issue. Anything left to say? I mean, I know we've got a lot more to talk about on this, but team loyalty, university loyalty is gone, and I hate it. I'm still loyal to my college. I'm still loyal to my university, and I think these guys should be too because look at what it's given them. But maybe the new mentality is, unfortunately, the university has taketh from them and has profited from them, and that's why they don't have that loyalty now.
My
Yeah.
final projection: coaching contracts are about to start looking a lot like Trevor Lawrence contracts.
Oof.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. My last thought on this is like when you're an alumnus from a school, right? Like when you've transferred 7 times, who do you claim? Like we've had that debate many times about Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma,
Yeah,
Alabama.
I was about to say, yeah.
But some of these guys, who was the
What's the
cat
debate?
from,
Oklahoma.
yeah, well, right? Who was the same guy that starred in the quarterback series? What's his name that nobody likes, but transferred like 8 times? It's
Oh,
not. It's Spencer. It was not Spencer Rattler.
not
It was,
Spencer
Yeah,
Rattler.
it was the other kid
John Franklin, whatever.
Yeah.
no, it was the kid who signed with like Ohio State originally and then
Okay.
transferred to Miami and then went like 8 different places and just never panned out. But again, what are you going to claim? That's my last thought.
Nothing.
He's going to claim loyalty to those Benjamins.
What a loser you are. Claim
Lots of-
Michigan.
Lots of people go to college for 7 years.
Yeah, Bert. There you go, Bert Kreischer. All right. All right. Well, guys, that leads us around the table. Final thoughts for the week from each one of you. What's on your mind? What you want to talk about? I'm going to go ahead and start this week. It's all we previewed it earlier, and all I got to say is giddy up once again. Birmingham Stallions in the UFL championship game have lost 1 game this season. In the 2 prior seasons of the USFL, they have also won the championships. And you know what? I have to ask the question. He succeeded. He did okay at Eastern Carolina. Skip Holtz. Skip Holtz has now taken this team. He's won 2 championships for the USFL. He's taken them to the UFL championship. He's lost 1 game this season. When is somebody going to give him a look? He is obviously a great coach. He has built an incredible team around him. And I think it's a shame that no one is giving him a look back at the college football level or even the pro football level as a coordinator or something else. Skip Holtz has done an incredible job, win, lose, or draw. So that's all I want to say. Giddy up, go Stallions, and Skip Holtz needs a really good look from somebody. G, what you got?
On the theme of UFL, you won't smell what the Rock is cooking because he won't even be at his own championship game. What a huge
Ooh.
disappointment.
His
to the
ex-wife
league.
was there, though. His ex-wife was there. Let's be clear.
Yeah, well,
Ooh.
when it needs a little lifeblood, you're not even there. You're filming a movie. Come on, bro. You're filming like 10 movies at a time. Be there for the championship game. It can wait. Final thoughts.
So his hype has ended around this one. That does maybe put that nail in the coffin because he's the only thing that revitalized it this year. I'm going to pivot to some basketball. You know, we've got some NBA finals happening right now. We've got women's basketball teeing off, and it's hitting the news quite a bit. But I'm going to stick to the finals there. I was really optimistic that maybe those Mavs would get these Boston Celtics a little bit of a run in these finals. But I think once again we see you can't build a team around just 2 players. And the support staff is just caught up with these Dallas Mavericks, and it looks like we may end up with a sweep in these finals. And how sad is that? Look, the Celtics are the best team because they're the best team through and through. Deep bench, deep players, great team, built largely through a draft. But you can't do it with just 2 players. And Luka and Kyrie just look like they've run out of steam.
Well, the thing I'll say about Luka is he just looks like a 45-year-old dad getting up and down the court. He looks like he's in pain with bad knees, but the guy, he always hits. That's why Luka is like, if you're a dad, you got to cheer for Luka because he just looks like an old tired dad out there running up and down the court. And apparently, it's caught up with him in the finals.
Maybe that's why I defend himself.
Long season there, boys. All right. Well, that is it for this week for CTT, for the Chubby Tackle Talk and the Chubby Boys. Like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to ask questions, leave comments, or even personal attacks for all we care. We'll get right back to you and tell you exactly what we think about you. And if you're from Michigan, Graham has love letters that he will personally write. For the boys, JT and G, this is Big Bubba No Trouble, and we are out.